Eric, I do want to talk about one of the bigger pieces of news that have happened. I guess we'll call it the second half of the week here. A little bit of controversy and a little bit of tragic news. Of course, I'm talking about Dallas from OVW. He was an OVW referee who was in the middle of a live, I guess, television taping, and disaster struck. He took a ref bump that did not go according to plan. But I don't know that everybody knew that at the time. He suffered a concussion and a brain bleed. And as we're speaking now, he is in the hospital, seemingly in good spirits. He made a statement online and obviously is going to be taking a little bit of a break. But there's been a lot of discourse about proper safety protocol in wrestling because Dallas was having a seizure on the mat. And Dallas, I believe, has requested that the video be removed. So we're not going to show the video, but it is out there on social if you want to get it. But at his request, hey, we're not going to show it either. But this does bring about a discussion about, what should happen when something happens that's off script and is potentially dangerous and harmful. And I know once upon a time, we as fans knew, or we grew to learn, that when a referee would throw up the big X, that means, hey, something happened. And then they sort of turned that into a storytelling device. And now maybe people aren't exactly sure, like, hey, he's selling, or is he really hurt? Now, you have been at a lot of live wrestling events. Sometimes you may or may not have been in the gorilla position, but we all understand that a lot of times there's a referee with an IFB in his ear, and then someone is communicating instructions to him either from the gorilla position or in the truck. That's the way it happens at bigger presentations. I don't pretend to know what's happening in OVW, but I do know it's brought about a discussion about when should we stop the story, so to speak. I know that sounds silly, but I think Chris Nowinski has been pretty forthright in saying, hey, it's okay if you don't finish a match every now and again, to just look out for performer safety. We don't have to continue the story. We can just stop the match. I know you probably haven't seen the footage, but this is
I have.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about, not necessarily, because I know everybody's jumping on and they're clowning on OVW and they're clowning on Al Snow, and they're specifically saying, oh, don't book the wrestlers involved. If folks weren't trained and they didn't have a plan and they didn't have a discussion, that's first of all, I'm glad Dallas is okay and seemingly on the mend. That's most important. But I'm hoping this can become a teachable moment for not just OVW, but the entire wrestling world at large. And we can institute maybe some best practices here. How does all this shake you? And what would your response be at this point, Eric?
My response to what? Or who?
Well, how this happened, the incident. I mean, you saw the video, and we do have the OVW statement and Dallas's. We'll go ahead and show those now.
But no, I'll give you my reaction to it, I guess, is what you're looking for. Everybody fucked up.
Yeah.
There's that simple. And there's really only one thing that should have happened in that situation. And that would be to shut the show down and make sure this young man wasn't in a situation worse than he obviously was. Because that could have been true too. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And if there's any discussion outside of that, I probably wouldn't be able to spend a lot of time listening to it. It's potentially life or death. Now, I think where everybody fucked up is, in what's unique about this situation, it's usually the referee who's in a position to talk to the truck if a talent gets hurt. Here, you've reversed the situation. Referees are generally kind of trained for that, or at least have thought through how they would react to that situation, because it's possible as a referee that you're going to be faced with that sometime. And I'm sure if there's any basic wrestling training schools out there, that's probably something that either is or should be in the curriculum. That said, now we've reversed the situation, and you've got wrestlers who probably have not considered, ooh, what if the referee has a heart attack or has a seizure or a brain bleed? Ooh, how should I react to that? That thought process has probably never occurred in 80% of the people that are going to wrestle in OVW or anywhere else on the independent scene. I'm not picking on OVW. You've got such a inexperienced, most cases somewhat trained, some cases well trained, in some cases horribly trained wrestlers out there on the independent scene in situations that many of them have never encountered before. So they're not going to react properly. They don't think through it. But the real issue here is, why wasn't, if this was being produced for television, number one, was it live or is it tape? That matters a little bit, very little, because the director, who's ever in control, ultimately in control, should have shut that down. And that's assuming there's not somebody at ringside or in a gorilla position, a senior person that is also watching what's going on, that's been around long enough to recognize, as I did when I saw that spot, and as most people did, which is why it's such a hard thing to watch, is because what that referee Dallas was doing had nothing that resembled selling. That was pretty obviously a seizure, and that's not 20/20 hindsight. Just, it's why I only watched it halfway through once. I'm not going to watch it again. Somebody should have been able to recognize that, no, this is not part of the show. The talent, they're too caught up in their own shit. They're inexperienced. They've probably never even imagined being in a situation like this. There's pressure on them, unrealistic pressure that they're probably putting on themselves. They don't want to screw up by stopping and falling for something that is part of the show. They're not going to want to take that risk, right? So it's such a not unusual, but unfortunately it's not unusual. It's probably pretty common. Well, it would have been resolved much quicker, in a much better way, if somebody would have just stopped the match.
I totally agree. I guess that's my question. It feels like, we almost never see matches get stopped on TV. I'm talking about WWE and AEW. And for better or worse, a lot of independents operate sort of monkey see, monkey do. You see the exact same thing happening on independents that you see on the mainstream. You see some of those guys sort of emulating what's happening on TV. And, hey, this is what they do in AEW, or this is what they do in WWE. But do you think we're at a point where it makes sense, not just on those major promotions, the multi-billion-dollar promotions, but even on an independent, that we have someone inside of the guardrail at ringside who can have some sort of authority? I know that exists in boxing. A doctor can stop a boxing fight. A doctor can stop, an MMA fight. And they usually do that through state athletic commissions. And I know, as a rule, professional wrestling folk, they do not like state athletic commissions. I do want to say, in my opinion, this is one of those where, boy, somebody from the state athletic commission could have made a really big difference here. But I understand that sometimes, in the interest of story, people don't really know, what's real and what's not. I get that. But I think we need to have some better safety protocols. And I think part of that may be, let's start considering some sort of third party inside the guardrail who can just shut the thing down when they need to. Because I don't pretend to know what their rig is. And I hear what you're saying about, hey, the director, but do we know that technologically they even have that in OVW? Like, I don't.
No, I mean, that's the other issue. But there had to be somebody overseeing what was happening. That somebody should have had the authority and the ability to shut that show down, and should have made that decision. Whoever that was, whether it's a director, or somebody on the creative team, I don't care. Whoever was in charge, whoever gets fired if this thing goes bad, not using this event as an example of somebody should be getting fired, but whoever is accountable for overseeing that event should have been close enough to the ring and had enough experience and the ability to shut that thing down 15 seconds after we started seeing what was happening.
Perhaps, it's not just another solution. Maybe it's not necessarily someone who is a representative from a state athletic commission, but some sort of senior seasoned wrestling person. Like, I don't know that Al Snow was or wasn't there. I know people are having a lot of fun dunking on him online right now because he famously said, someone will die in an AEW ring one day. I guarantee it. I'm sure he regrets saying that now, but I feel confident. I don't know Al that well, but I feel confident if he's inside the guardrail, he's shutting that thing down. But I do think we need to set a precedent. I hope this becomes a teachable moment. Most of all, I'm glad that Dallas is okay. We do have a statement from OVW that I think is probably fair that we read. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Last night during Rise, referee Dallas Edwards, a member of our OVW family, experienced a medical emergency during the broadcast. OVW takes the health and well-being of all of our performers extremely seriously, and as a company, we're all distraught to see an injury to one of our own. Dallas is alert and doing much better. We ask everyone to keep him in your thoughts and prayers and respect his and his family's privacy at this time. We'll provide an update as soon as it is available, but in the meantime, we wish Dallas a speedy recovery, and we can't wait until he's back with our OVW family very soon. Dallas actually posted a statement as well that I think, this is fair. We need to go ahead and share his thoughts as well. Dallas wrote, "Hey guys, I know everyone seems to know about the scary incident last night at OVW. I've been evaluated and I have a concussion as well as a subdural hematoma, parentheses, brain bleed. With that being said, I have made the decision to take some needed time away to get my life and health back in good spirits. I appreciate all the support everyone has been offering, but as far as money goes, I'm grateful to be in a position that I can manage an accident like this. In lieu of donations, I instead implore all of my fellow workers to get some sort of training in assisting another's life. Being in this position before, it's very important to be educated in all scenarios related to injury, illness, or condition in the ring, especially when we're performing. I'm not mad at anyone or anything other than the situation as a whole, and that I've been sitting for about 24 hours straight in a hospital. As far as updates go, I'm getting a CT scan in the morning, and if that goes well, I'll be home. Thank you to everyone who's reached out or stopped by. It means more than you know. Love, Dally." Man, what a cool cat to have that approach and put that statement out with the picture with the thumbs up. I think we're all pulling for Dallas Edwards. It feels like it wasn't that long ago we had a horse of a different color with the whole Stu tragedy with his hospitalization, and things got a little too real. But in consecutive years now, we've had some ugliness inside the squared circle. One certainly by accident, one intentional. I hope that there becomes some new best practice that is instituted across the board, but I can't say exactly what that is outside of let's put someone inside the guardrail, Eric.
Yeah, well, the market will eventually determine what those processes are and who that person is, because of the litigation that's going to come out of it. When you have, and this is not just in this situation, but it's not until it hits somebody's pocketbook does it become kind of an issue that everybody needs to be concerned with, right? You even down to the independent promoter level. An independent promoter, they have rent-a-cop. I don't mean that to sound disparaging. They have security people who are taking their job seriously. But is there a paramedic? Maybe you should put a paramedic on your security team for the sole purpose of just keeping an eye out for this type of thing. In other words, you're going to have to figure out affordable ways to make some choices and decisions to at least make an effort and to be able to demonstrate that you've made an effort, that you've got, safety in mind when you're having a professional wrestling event. At least for no other reason than when you get sued, because you will, as an independent promoter, it's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. If you've got any money for people to sue you for, and when an injury or a fight or something happens at one of your events, you're going to have some lawyer come knocking on your door. At least if you've demonstrated that you made an attempt, perhaps that's something that could work in your favor down the road. But it's going to happen. So I think once a couple people, get sued and it makes headlines and everybody decides, oh, we need a process because we can't afford to get sued anymore.
SaveWithConrad.com.
Hey, I'm Justin Ruffin from Knoxville, Tennessee. What got me to Save with Conrad was the 83 Weeks podcast. I really wasn't thinking about getting rid of any debt. I just wanted to cash out some equity in the house to do remodeling. But I did both, so that was pretty awesome. Worked out great. We redid the foyer, built pantry space, and there's little odds and ends when I first bought the house that I wanted to take care of, and we were able to take care of it. So, paid off 2 cars and some credit card debt. So probably all in all, get $30,000 in that. And then I got some $30,000 more equity out of the house, and still plenty of equity left over. So payment's good. I lowered my interest rate. I'm in a much better spot than I was. super easy. Everybody was great. Very, very awesome people. Francis and Steve were great to work with. They're awesome. Made it for a very easy, seamless experience. I'd probably say all in all, probably $1,000 a month at least. I'm lowered my interest rate, especially the way the interest rates are right now, which is, that's amazing. I'm Justin Bruckman from Knoxville, Tennessee. I saved over $1,000 with SaveWithConrad.com, and I did a lot of renovations with that money as well.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.